Hi there, I'm just testing a new strategy today which attempts to Dutch any runner that starts really well. So essentially it looks for anything jumping at the stalls quickly, and that will be reflected in the fact that its odds will drop fairly significantly, and it uses that to identify which runners to Dutch. Places a Dutch, and I've got a £25 green up. So this is the first race I've really looked at in earnest, having tinkered with my settings. And there you see me just greening up there just now for £34. That was quite an unusual race in the fact that there was 5 different runners identified. But still, who cares if it still greens up? Excellent start. Off to Ireland now for this race. Let's see how many we get in this one. Looks like just the one, high leaves. So we just need that to come down to give us a £25 profit. That would be nice. Now I initially thought about this with a view to using it in sprints. The idea being any runner that leaps out of the stalls very quickly. However, I'm going to try it on some long races as well. I'd be curious to see if it performs in those as well. That would be quite interesting. So you can see quite a stark contrast here. We've got just the one selection in this race, whereas in the previous one there was 5. It's not looking too great at the moment though, it seems to be drifting a bit. As usual, I don't have any commentary on it or anything, so I've no idea what's happening in the race. So we'll just let this run through to its conclusion if it doesn't trade out. He was taking at 56, so he's going to have to go down to... He's going to have to drop down to 4.4, and there he's just done it. There we go, there's a green up. Excellent! Very good, 2 out of 2. On to the next one. Off to Ascot now for a 1 mile 2 furlong race. Same sort of thing, it's looking for anything that starts very well. Looks like we've only got the one there, prenup. It's only just now getting taken. And we'll see how this one gets on. I haven't finalised my settings on this yet, so I don't know whether to just take a snapshot of what has happened just after the start or let it run for a little bit longer to see if any other ones drop in. You'll see there Miss Alpines, for example, has come in fairly steadily in the first 25% of the race, whereas the one that got selected, prenup, it dropped immediately coming out of the stalls and then has risen again, and it's been in the red ever since. So I haven't settled on my settings as yet, but in principle it seems to be working so far. Prenup doesn't seem to be showing any signs of coming in yet though, but as usual I'll let this run through to its conclusion. As you know, I don't like trading out in running because more often than not it works against me. So this guy's going to have to come down to about 5, I think, probably. Doesn't look like it now that he's already way out at 1,000. Yeah, he needed to get down to 6. And he showed no signs of doing so. So yeah, as I say, I haven't settled on my settings as yet, and they're certainly open to some manipulation. Okay, off to Haydock now for a 1 mile 7 furlong national hunt flat. And we'll see how we got on this one. So that's the bets just going in. We've got 2 covered this time, Eagle's Quest and Seva. So this will take 2 or 3 minutes to complete. Whilst it's doing that, let me just run through what I'm doing here. In the initial stages of the race, immediately after the start, I'm monitoring all the racers, all the horses, checking to see which ones have dropped in price, and then using those in a Dutch. So if you want to try this out, there's a variety of ways to find out which ones have dropped in price. I suggest you use the selection relative odds condition. Use that to identify those runners that have dropped a certain specified value in odds, and then use the automation Dutching facility to Dutch those that you've identified using the selection relative odds, and see how you get on. Like any other automation that I've presented, there's loads of settings you can tinker around with. I'll leave that to your heart's content and have a little play with. There's still lots of racing to carry on this evening, so I'm just going to let this run through and test itself for the rest of the evening, and I'll come back to it at the tail end of the night, whereas last one's at 20:35 at work. So I may come back and record that and let you see the results for the whole of the evening. Okay, we'll just leave this one here and I'll catch up soon enough. Off to Warwick for this 2.5 mile beginner's chase. This is going to be the last one for this video. Just to recap, what I've been doing is trying to find runners that are sprinting away at the start. The strategy was, of course, designed ideally for those runners that jump out of stalls in sprints, but I wanted to see what it would be like with longer races as well. So whilst that's chugging along in the background, let me just pull up the market watch list, and you'll see it's been something of a mixed bag. Some very poor results here, but you'll see the vast majority of those are in long races. So I'm not too fussed about that, to be perfectly honest, considering I conceived the strategy purely for 5, 6 and 7 furlong sprints. And if you scan down that list there's 7 of those. There's been 1 failure here. All the rest have been profitable, resulting in an overall profit for sprints of £137. So I'm more than happy with that. There's a little bit of tweaking I might want to do. I don't want to do too much though, and I certainly don't want to look at tweaking it to try and improve the performance in long races. The strategy was never designed for that, as I say. There's certainly an argument to create another one of a similar vein with significantly different settings and use that for longer races, but that's a topic for another day. So just to recap, what I've been doing is waiting to the start of the race and then monitoring the odds of all the runners, trying to identify those runners that have jumped ahead, jumped at the gates quickly, and therefore their odds should have dropped significantly. And if there's any of those runners in a particular race, I would Dutch them. In some races I only found 1, in other races I found as many as 4 or 5. So they'd be Dutched for an overall stake of £100 and then greened up for 25. Oh, that's the plan. There's actually also an argument to suggest that you just leave those alone. I mean, glancing through the results, some of the picks that have been selected, some of the qualifying runners, they've gone on to win at odds of 15.5, 10.5, 11. So it may be worthwhile looking at those races with a view just to have straight bets. But that'll take some time to do. But it's certainly worthwhile. As I say, the performance in the longer races is not unexpected, to be perfectly honest. I didn't see that there would be the same correlation between a fast starting horse in a sprint and a corresponding fast starting horse in a chase, for example. And that certainly seems to be panning out. Okay, so that's going to be the last of the day. This doesn't look overly promising at the moment. It's sitting at 8, so that's going to have to come down to around 6 in order to trade out, I would think. Let me just quickly glance at the ladder. Way out, where are we? Alright, yeah, it's going to have to come, yeah, 6.2ish. It's going to have to come down to in order to green up for £25. So it comes as no surprise as it doesn't look like it's going to do that just yet. So anyway, the result of this one doesn't really matter. It was really just a proof of concept for today, and it's worthwhile investigating but concentrating on sprints later on. And the interesting thing will be in the next all-weather meetings, see if that's of any use. And there, in actual fact, we've just managed to green up. Okay guys, I'm going to leave that there. I hope you found that useful. If you want to try it yourself, as I say, you're looking for runners that drop in odds as soon as they come out the gates. The variety of ways of doing that. I'm using the selection relative odds condition to check for that. Give it a bash and see how you get on. Cheers.